Hello, everybody. Thank you so very much for joining me. It is outstanding to have you. My name is Chris, otherwise known as Wolfie, and we are live once again with massively overpowered ZOPTV. And what an auspicious occasion this stream is. Last minute change of plans from what I was going to do today, but you know what? This warrants it. The first big real reason, of course, is that I am not alone. As you can see, I am being joined by some magnificent people. First off, she needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her a little one anyway. The magnificent Bree. Hello, Bree.
Oh my gosh. Hi, everybody.
I am also joined by an extremely wonderful individual, a very good friend, and somebody who I've looked up to even before I was taken on by massively overpowered Elliot Lefebvre. Hello, Elliot.
Hello there, Chris. For a minute there, I thought you got another guy.
And we are also joined by Paul. Hello.
Hello.
So we are in City
Wow,
of Heroes
Paul.
Homecoming.
Paul deserves more intro than that. We like Paul.
We love Paul. I
We
just
could
don't know
say who
Paul
he
nearly
is.
enough.
Paul is my husband, and he also does all of the tech stuff for Massively OP. So he's a staffer, but not a writer. Does that make sense?
Yes. He's the guy who makes sure the hamsters behind the scenes run properly and get fed the only the choicest of cheeses. The Aquaman of the group. Toaster says we are here in City of Heroes Homecoming, which is now an officially licensed server by NCSoft. It is no longer Rogue. It is legitimate. And wow, just whoever saw this coming, honestly. Truly, whoever saw this coming.
I mean, yeah, but maybe not exactly at this time. Since they've been talking about it for a really, really long time, and we knew they were still working on it, and we knew that there had been some setbacks, but like they weren't going to talk about it too much. They weren't going to like spill the beans and give it away, or worse, curse it before it had even happened. So yes, if you guys were paying attention and you believed, you knew, but a lot of people either weren't or didn't.
Exactly. And now it is official as of yesterday. And we have been reporting the heck out of it. We have, of course, the actual news story there. There have been some excellent questions and some a little bit tiny answers from the homecoming team from Bree. And also, of course, Elliot had a fantastic piece all about his thoughts on this news and like just so much reaction. And of course, naturally, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the reaction of our readers to the news as well. That's certainly just as important, if not more so. Frankly, but yeah, this is just. I never would have dreamed. I knew it was being worked on too, right? But like, I never would have dreamed ever like this would be even possible.
And if you don't mind, if I just jump in here for just a sec,
Yeah.
Chris. I'm actually gonna fly over here because I remember the last time I really played City of Heroes before
Mhm.
it's shut down. Like it was when I was over on these steps
Right.
holding up a torch as part of the protests, and I still have screenshots of that. And so, it feels very symbolic to me that here I am back on these steps. And, obviously, homecoming is not new in that regard. We've
Sure.
had this here for a while, but like it feels very different and it feels more real than it has. That, this is I'm back. I'm back here.
Yep. I and that's kind of what I feel like a lot of the people's responses to the daily grind for today was basically asking, you know, now that you know that it's been licensed, are you coming back or will you continue to play? And there have been a lot of people who felt similarly, like this feels like an ushering of a brand new sense of stability, and so that's encouraging a lot of folks to come back or to continue to play. Like it's and that kind of like leads into a topic that was that's kind of that feels like important to talk about the story of your play arc on the original on the original server, right? On live. Like, how is so you were there during the shutdown, you said, Elliot. So I mean,
Yes.
so you must have been playing significantly frequently then, I have to imagine, right?
Oh yeah, this was as I said in my column. And Bree will attest to this too. Back then, like when the year the shutdown announcement happened, we hadn't yet seen. We were still like more than a year or a year-ish away from 14 relaunching.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you asked me to describe what my role on the site was, I was the FF14 guy and I was the City of Heroes guy. And if you asked me, prior to the shutdown announcement, which one do you think is going to be more important to you moving forward? It would not have been Final Fantasy 14.
No,
Because
you're absolutely right. It's hard to explain, but when the tip came in about City of Heroes, we laughed because we thought it was fake, when that they were
Yeah.
sunsetting it. We did not actually believe it until we actually started seeing important, developers and whatnot acknowledging it. We were like, "Holy crap, that can't be possible. This game has a ton of players. How is this real?"
Yeah, it's still astonishing, but then to that point, Bree, then you have I guess you were playing just as frequently as Elliot was then, if not more, or
I was. We started playing like gosh, that first summer that it launched, like my guild, when I say we, I mean my guild. And we played
Mhm.
off and on for a while, and we came back like pretty late in its life, like after enhancement, diversification and all that stuff. And we really loved it. Like we played it as like a regular group night thing because it's such a group friendly game and you can play anything. We had so many characters, and yeah, I was playing it like at the end. I was still playing. Like I was actively playing. I was actively watching. The live streams where they were introducing like staffs and the water blaster set and all that stuff. It was so exciting. It felt like it was really really like a live MMO and not like an old game that was backburnered like so many games were back then. And so for it to get, just crushed right in front of us, right before Guild Wars 2 came out, that's the era we're talking about here. It floored everybody.
and what about you, Paul? Were you part of that guild, or
Oh yes, I was also part of the regular team. I always come in as a duo. Back then, we could count on our kids to go to sleep early, usually.
Back then, we only had one, and he was so tiny it didn't matter.
I remember meeting him when he was still that little. Oh my god.
He's 12 now. I hope you all feel very old.
And as for me, I I think I started playing live shortly, like I want to say maybe a month before enhancement diversification happened. My very first time touching the game was on a friend's computer, and like all I'd been playing to that point was Final Fantasy 11. So like it was compared to that, this one was felt so much more open and freewheeling and fun, as opposed to at the time what felt like an extremely stiff and almost like platinum rod style gameplay in Final Fantasy 11. Like,
Oh god. I'd say I can only imagine what it was like going from FF11 to City of Heroes as your second MMO, except I don't have to imagine, because that was my journey too.
exactly.
I
So you know exactly what I mean. Like, it's such an astonishing departure. Like from that to City of Heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like you suddenly went from, okay, well, I can't jump, I'm locked on the Z-axis, time to go sit and camp for 4. It's like, if you've seen that old MC Chris joke about Kingdom Hearts 2 versus Resident Evil 4, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like, what do you mean to sit and wait for a group? We did it for you! Get out there!
Yeah, I actually had like
Go,
analysis.
go!
I had analysis paralysis in making my first character. Like, I was staring aghast at all the choices, and this was like before they added even more options, right? Like, this was still a new game at this point. So the fact that I had this many things in front of me possible, I was just like, I need this game. And like I was just immediately in love, and then just I kind of stopped playing a little bit near the end, but only because it felt like this was Star Wars. Like everybody else, I was completely floored by the fact that NC Soft would close what seemed, as far as I could tell, was a successful and a profitable game. And so I always kind of assumed that, there's no point in me feeling like I had to log in constantly. This game is always going to be there. I'm still going to have friends, but it's just ay. But you know what? Now it's back, and yeah, but that character that I was messing around with my friend, that was not my first character. My first character was on Virtue, and it was an archery energy blaster by the name of the Midnight Kestrel. I need to remake her, frankly, because as you were talking about being poetic, Alia, this was that just feels like part of that poetry, part of that legacy and heritage that I kind of not necessarily want to recapture, but at least celebrate. So to that point, what was your first character?
My first character was a katana regen scrapper.
Ooh, nice.
And I had done my research beforehand, and I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna front. The time when this came out, I was really still fixated on Kill Bill. This was only a couple of years later. So that was really, first and foremost in my head.
Right.
So, that was and I was constantly floored. It wasn't a good combo, and I wasn't a good player, and all of that stuff. It took me a while, but I remember just being floored by, like you said, just the fact, coming from the much, much stiffer and slower play experience of 11, that just, you just logged into the game and just go do something.
Yeah.
No, don't sit under Atlas and wait for a group. Go do something. And it felt so freeing. And that's the biggest thing that it always struck me about City of Heroes. City of Heroes is a game that has always resonated with me because the game doesn't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to have stuff for you to do, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be dynamic, and it's going to be neat. And okay, there's some sloppy bits, there's some, issues. Crafting is obviously grafted out in after the fact, but it's all there, and it's all playable, and it's all good. So, I'm not actually going to remake my first character, but I do have a couple characters that I'm going to remake, including one of the characters who used to show up a lot in the massively that was Column when I would do my there were 3 mascot characters that showed up frequently in that column, and there's another one of them I'm going to be remaking here.
Oh, sweet. I love that. What about you, Bree? What was your first? Actually, while we're talking, let's go ahead and head to the
we
tram.
should just do something, right? Just like Elliot said.
I
I don't know. We can just stand here all day. It's cool.
We could, but you know what? We'll do a little radio missions while we talk. But yeah, what was your first, Bree?
My very, very first character was a Claws Super Reflexes Scrapper. I didn't really have any ulterior motives other than I loved the shing shing sound. I still love the shing shing sound. I can't stop with it. And I like the idea of a dodge based melee character. I don't know. I don't really play those characters usually, but I really like them here. And I also had a I didn't play very far. I probably didn't get past 20 in her. The one I played with my guild most of the time was a ice kinetics controller, because I like the idea of slow and fast and how that's awesome. I hated that character. I hated it so much. I think half the reason I ended up quitting that character. It was just not fun. I did not enjoy it at all. I understand ice control has been heavily buffed on Homecoming, so don't judge it based on 2004.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we're going to Steel Cannon, by the way. We'll be doing some radio missions here. What about you, Paul? What was your first character?
Boy, I honestly can't remember. It's been a long
I remember
time.
your first villain because she was a radiation corruptor.
Oh yeah, that was a fun
Do
one.
I remember your first?
I probably rolled a Fire Blaster if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'd bet that too.
You'd bet that.
No, because that's what he always plays fire. In fact, his highest character here and on the other side was a fire ice, right? I think you're fire ice
Ah, okay, gotcha.
I think
here,
I'm-
but I think you were fire back then.
that sounds right. Because I
Yeah,
just
that makes sense.
All right, I gotta
I
catch up
know,
with
War-
chat.
Warcraft
First
came
of all,
out in-
before I go too much further, I do need to shout to Orleva and Neo Venom. Thank you both very much for the channel follows. Appreciate that support. Hope you enjoy your time here, and we're looking forward to seeing you in other streams. To that point, Neo Venom has actually been chatting up a store, and I played this game a ton, but never reached max level. Glad NCSoft gave the license to the Homecoming team. And they tried recreating some of the characters that they can remember, and they remembered a majority of them. Nice, I love that. I still know exactly how to build my first character, Midnight Kestrel. Like genuinely, like down to the dimensions. I kind of want to play around with her costume a bit more, but like as far as like hairstyle and body size and everything like that, like I know exactly where she was at. And yes, way too late. Hello, way too late. Good to see you. I don't remember my first character. They're lost to time and space, but I think Mudclyde, who was a Carl from Aqua Teen analog Stone tank, was as close to his first as I can remember. That's awesome. I love that. Mudclyde. That's a brilliant name. Okay, let's go ahead and... does anybody have any preferences to enemy type? Just whatever's clever, honestly.
Ain't bugged by nothing. Let's just, you know.
I'd say we should kill skulls, but I don't think we can do that in Steel Canyon.
I don't know if we can. If we can go hunt and kill skulls, we should go kill skulls.
You know what?
Speaking of extremely dank memes, Chris, I need to invite you to our extremely important guild or
Yes.
supergroup called Strong and Pretty, which I can't believe nobody on Everlasting had taken, but I got
I'm
it now.
astonished people hadn't gotten that. That's incredible. It's genuinely incredible. That the fact that you secured that was a surprise. Really was. There we go. Thank you. I'm 100% a member of the Strong and Pretty group now.
I love it so much. Oh my gosh.
This is the kind of, and actually something you were talking about in work chat yesterday, is like, this is some of the stupid nonsense that it's only really feels possible in City of Heroes, honestly.
Yeah, it's built. I'm not saying it's an unserious game, but it's built to allow you to be whatever level of seriousness you want, which means a lot of people do not take it seriously whatsoever, and their characters are just ridiculous pun names. Their whole design of their characters are like walking jokes.
Yep.
Level 50 walking jokes just never. I always take pictures when I see people walk past because I just love the commitment to the bit, and you could really just carry it through. I love it so much.
Yeah, I still
very-
remember one of my favorite pun characters I saw was a fire tanker called Arson Daly. So
Oh, that one's good.
And it's fitting in the superhero role. That's the biggest thing to me. It's like, there are lots of games where you can be a walking joke, but it's very fitting in City of Heroes to say, yeah, my name is Arson Daly, or like there's no.
yeah, there doesn't seem to be nearly as many rules as like there would be in other MMOs for sure. Like, it definitely feels different. And I'm gonna try to get myself in a position where, there we go. The camera was kind of stuck inside of my head. So is this no longer considered a rogue server? Correct. This is now an officially licensed by NCSoft server. This is the Homecoming servers are officially licensed. They're real now. This is all legal.
I love that there are people who are going to be finding out about that, like, for the first time right now. If they weren't paying attention yesterday, congrats. Come join.
Congratulations. Welcome to the fold. It is awesome to be a part of it.
Welcome to the party, pal.
And actually, that kind of like segs into another topic, like how handled the sunset announcement. Like, obviously, we all sort of expressed astonishment and shock, which that's obvious. But like, ultimately, how was it handled by you personally? Like, how did you take the news? What did you do?
I was gutted. Like, I know I mentioned earlier that, back in the day, this has been one of my main games and the main things I covered, but, like, also just on a personal level, it just felt so shocking and weird and just... Oh, we didn't just beat up that troll. That man's dead. He fell down that ramp.
Guy's, yeah.
His mouth is submerged in sewer water. That man is dead.
And he was sliding face first through it too. So like, yeah, no, he's dead.
That
for sure.
man.
That was kill. That was absolutely kill.
Yeah, he's not arrested. That man is no longer alive. Sorry. Speaking of shutdowns.
What a segue. Yeah, for me personally, I sort of was... I just was in stunned silence and I just stopped playing more than I was not playing before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's just... Like, I know Bree kind of already covered how surprising it was when it happened, but emotionally, it's hard to express how... I don't want to say hurtful, but just unexpected and weird and painful was.
Yeah.
To see this, game that was vibrant and well-liked and had, a solid player base, it's one of those things where even in years subsequently, Bree and I have had to talk and go back and forth about how best to talk about the shutdown because it was just so...
Traumatic.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was especially traumatic for me, not that I'm special, but because I had lost Star Wars Galaxies just 6 or 7 months before that.
Oh,
and then
whoa,
it was
really?
Boom,
Oh
boom,
my
and that was
gosh.
my main MMO and my second MMO. Just boom, just like that. It was gutting, absolutely gutting. And so I had a rough couple of years after that where I had no appetite for any MMOs. I mean, that was my job. I had to play them. I had to pay attention, but I didn't want to. I was really upset.
Oh gosh, I had no idea that 1-2 punch was, oh my goodness. Yeah, that's actually an interesting question that's brought up by Darth Ball. Is losing the mystique of it being called a Rose server affecting anybody? Me? No, definitely not.
I much prefer it this way. I am so pumped. I wouldn't say that it lost its mystique. I would say that
It didn't lose anything. It gained legitimacy. Like honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's and I just sort of, I don't know. My reaction to the shutdown definitely wasn't nearly as dramatic. I was never part of the protests against it like Elliot was. I wasn't as crestfallen for very good reasons by it as Bree was, but I still felt just sort of I feel like that was my first real big game shutdown, right? I've heard about MMOs being closed before, but then this was at a time where games like Final Fantasy XI or EverQuest felt like they were evergreen, like they were never going to go away. And so the fact that a game like City of Heroes that seemed like it was doing really well could be just pulled from the plug, that was really jarring. It bit a lot of confidence into what I felt was what I thought would be permanent homes, right? Kind of just really shook that idea to its core. Oh my gosh, there's so many boys here. There's so many boys. Oh,
That's
okay.
a lot of boys.
Did you just pull 3 groups?
No, I think they were together like this. Genuinely, I don't think Paul did anything. Also, I apologize for like the rumbling, growling noises of this power set. I was not ready for how noisy this beast melee or the savage melee was. Like, my character sounds like they have like drank all of the Mountain Dew and they're just belching constantly. I'm sorry.
I have on the most annoying particle effects I can find, so you don't know me.
Oh yeah, the
Two fires?
pulsating
Yeah.
fire is
Yep.
like gives me a headache.
And spines.
And spines.
Spines.
I'll have you know, I am deliberately not using hurricanes so that I don't piss you off, but I'm thinking about it.
You're thinking it real loud.
Exactly.
So that's actually a good segue into another topic. Your favorite character that you played online, like your favorite build.
I mean, my main spider was often my favorite. As people pointed out, spiders were kind of like a, ranged trapper, which was kind of my preferred playstyle. But I also still, I mention him frequently, and I will never forget him. The inimitable Javier placeholder. Javier placeholder is one of my favorites because Javier placeholder simply existed because I just was hitting random character for a minute, and I got this huge guy with a gigantic, straight up Marge Simpson hair in a trench coat and a kilt and a baby face.
Wow, that's
And
wow.
I was just like, this is such a perfect random. Oh, and his color palette was purple and yellow too.
Of course, why wouldn't it be?
So it was just such a perfect random. Well, now we need Javier. Javier placeholder is not the hero we need, but he is the hero we deserve.
Elliot would be one of those people who does not take things seriously in City of Heroes, is what I'm trying to say.
And the thing is, it's both. I do both. There are characters I have that are very serious, and where I have a whole lot of backstory and concepts and stuff. And then I have Javier placeholder.
But my favorite build was my main Midnight Kestrel, the archery energy blaster, and purely because like that combination. And I remember like archery blasting being like a humongous meme within the community. Like, I actually remember a video that somebody edited for like the City of Villains like reveal trailer, where like at one point it was making fun of that hero for rolling an archery character. But my favorite memory from my time in City of Heroes was when I was running a late level or near level 50 8-headed monster of a team, and I was using my abilities to really great effect, and like most of the enemies were falling down dead or near dead after like a couple of fucked up moments where I unleashed my rain of arrows, and somebody in the party chat said I didn't know that archery was capable of so much damage, and that made me smile. Like, I felt great. I say that, of course, and I'm like constantly missing this guy.
No, archery's awesome now. I made an archery blaster last year and like fell in love after like years of trying to make it work for me. It's finally working for me.
Oh, sweet. Love to hear that. Yeah, and that's why I want to recreate the character, because like and I'm not gonna I don't have any like presumptions that I'll be able to relive that moment again. That's just insane. but there's still just a lot of affection for the power set that I have. And I want to honor that. What about you, Paul? What was your favorite character?
Oh, I thought Radiation is one of my. I forget her name. Yeah, Rad Blaster. Oh, Corruptor right after City of Villains came out.
Corruptors are great. I love her. I honestly kind of like some of the City of Villain archetypes a little more than the hero ones. Like, I definitely like Brood over Tanker, for example.
Oh
Yeah, I tried a tanker. It's very slow. I think it was a gravity tanker when that first came out.
That's not a thing.
Oh, I might have made that up.
Maybe you mean energy. There's an energy.
Yeah.
yeah, gravity should be an option.
It totally
That
should
would be awesome.
That would be amazing. Heck yeah, I agree. That would be incredible. Now I'm also reminded of something else from City of Heroes, the absolute chaos of everybody standing in the doorway.
I see a doorway, I hurricane it. That's just what you do.
Oh gosh, I just came up with a perfect tanker gravity name too.
What's that?
Mass Driver.
Oh, that's good. Oh, I like that. When I played City of Heroes, about 90% of it was character generation. Yeah, mood. Absolutely mood. I had a healer I really enjoyed, got into the 20s. I really kind of feel like I want to play healer now, but I'm also not sure I can. It's hard to say.
I think that's one of the glorious things that's always been true about City of Heroes, is that if you're ever thinking, I don't know if I can play this, you can. It's not that kind of game. This is not, if you ever play with me in like 14, you'll know that's a game where I really optimize. I am very much someone who knows exactly what they're doing, keeps everything at, just the right level, optimizes rotation, all that stuff. But City of Heroes is not that game. City of Heroes is a game where you pick a character that looks neat, and you pick a power set that feels cool, and then you just kind of
Over and over and over and over again. What else? And that was what I was gonna say. For me, my obvious favorite character is Storm. Anything Storm. I've made so many Storm characters over the year, and my original favorite character was his Earthstorm controller, and then that's the same thing I have as my main hero. Although I don't play her very much because they don't solo that great. Compared to other, it's not impossible. It's just that compared to like Scrappers and Masterminds, which just kind of stomp through everything. Yeah, controllers and dominators in this game. If you guys are the kind of player who like really miss old school control type characters, this is your game. This is where you belong. This is the only place you can really get that full experience.
Yeah, I agree. Game you can enjoy without being a min-maxer. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And there are some builds that are easier to play with by yourself than others, by leagues and bounds, but like another fun thing that I remember from when City of Villains first came out was I was in an all mastermind team running door missions. So it was 8 people with like 3 or 4 pets per person in an office map. Like, it was madness, and
Ads
it
from
was
the
so
side,
much
guys.
fun.
Sorry, that's my fault.
That's all good.
Bree, I think it was in one of our discussions where we mentioned that, like, City of Heroes could introduce a power set where, like, your main power is killing yourself, and someone would find a way to solo, like, +1 double bricks.
You're absolutely right. People would not only play that, but they would like advocate that it never be changeable, like the devs never fix it, and they would find a way. They always find a way. This game is like, it's like perfect for crazy people who just want to min max all the time, and it's perfect for casuals. I can get my 9-year-old to play that. You know what I mean? It like it runs this spectrum of playability, and you can like ramp it up to be way harder than it ever should. It's even harder on Homecoming than it was on Live. You can really run that difficulty up into the sky. And yeah, I mean, in a world where people play petless masterminds on purpose, you bet they would play the I kill myself character.
Yeah, totally. And that actually sort of
I want to
leads.
call mine. Stop hitting yourself.
Stop.
Wait, hold on. I really need. Now I really want that character.
Now you're thinking about how to make it happen.
I have a much better name for that. I will be a self-killing tanker. My name, Suicide King. That's a real term. It's from cards. Look it up.
And that sort of like actually all leads into what we were just talking. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but like how this game compares to modern MMOs nowadays. Like, so we already touched on like the freedom that this whole thing affords, and like the level of not give a damn that's also kind of inherent in its design. But like, as far as like combat, for example, or like overall features, things like that, like. I think it still stands head and shoulders above so many other games. Even the combat as sort of, I want to say like basic as it can kind of seem, like it's still fun when you have a bunch of enemies surrounding you and you're ripping them to shreds or withstanding their blows. It feels great, honestly.
Yeah, it feels like the combat at this point feels much stiffer than a lot of other games. I definitely noticed that, but it doesn't feel stiffer than every game in the genre, and it doesn't feel bad. It just feels a little, it feels like, okay, I can tell this came out, a long time.
Oh sure, yeah, it's definitely aged, but at the same time, it kind of feels like it toes this interesting line between feeling like active and action combat without requiring like mouse clicking and aiming or other like Twitch skills.
It reminds me a little bit it reminds me of the combat in like Guild Wars, the original, or in FF11, where it's like, okay, I can tell this is old, but not bad. It's just, this used to be really good, and now it's just acceptable. This is fine. This is alright. It's not like, I'm trying to think of, there are more modern games where the combat felt worse, even though it's felt more.
Yeah, Elliot, I thought it was interesting before you were comparing it to Final Fantasy XI, I think, and you were saying that it didn't feel slow, and I feel like it's just the opposite. It feels extremely slow to me, like it's the slowest tap target I can think of, but that's actually why I like it, so I'm okay with that. And I think it appeals to, I don't want to say older gamers, but like people who grew up during that time who remember the games like that and aren't looking for a Twitch experience. It's never felt Twitch to me.
I think it's less that it feels like the combat is slower, and more that it just feels, less fluid. Like, I'm definitely hitting fewer abilities, and I'm hitting it slower, and I'm using the comparisons of, like, 11 and stuff, not because, I think there's a one-to-one, but more insofar as I definitely feel that slower and less dynamic pace, as opposed to, a lot of the characters that I tend to play, where it's like, I've made the joke before that it feels like playing most of my preferred characters usually feels like watching a JoJo fist fight, where I'm just hammering the keys as fast as I can.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's certain modern games, and no, I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying older gamers. It's fine. Older gamers exist. Certainly a lot of them in the MMO genre, you could argue. But
yeah, I think it's more about like it reminds me of like the difference between real-time strategy games and turn-based strategy games. This has always felt very tactical to me because of the slowness. I don't feel like it's less challenging, just more tactical, like more like you can think about each decision you're making instead of going, well, crap, face roll on my keyboard and try to go as fast as possible. I don't like MMOs like that. I find them kind of boring. They lull me to sleep, whereas this one I'm like, I better pay attention, or yeah, like I'm not doing right now. I don't know how you guys can talk and play at the same time. I suck at that.
Oh, you're doing just fine. You're doing absolutely fine.
And one of the nice things actually about how the game feels, and I think Bree kind of touched on it just there, is that like it's a very, no matter what, like the force multiplication of having more people in your group very much is true, even if you're not necessarily doing as much as you could be. Like, having a full group like we do, or a four-person group like we do right now, it definitely, I can feel the impact of us being in a group, even when, you know, I'm a little distracted, or Chris is a little distracted, or Paul's a little distracted, or Bree's a little distracted.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a great force multiplication. That's absolutely how this feels. Like it's, and these games always feel great with friends anyway. But like, it's even more prevalent in City Heroes than any other MMORPG that I've played, past or current. Honestly.
Yeah, and that's like if I want, you know, a bespoke, challenging experience to run with a group of friends, that's where, you know, like doing dungeons in 14 is really nice. If I want just to kind of pal around with people and not care about what anyone's bringing or how anyone's doing, or, you know, even necessarily paying 100% attention to the game at all moments, then I will load this up because this is exactly the right game for it.
Yep, definitely.
And yet you don't have to, because you could just scale up the difficulty and just scale it up. People are doing like, what is it, like, I don't know, it goes way beyond 8, whatever it is now, that you can actually and get rewards for it, because some of these servers actually have like extra things you get for being ridiculously overpowered in giant groups, or solo for that matter. So you can make this your own solo challenge.
And if that's what appeals to you most, you can play it like that too. And you're right. And I'm not trying to say there's no reason to ever, you know. The combat can be as face rolly or as active as you want it to be, but it's the as you want it to be that's really nice about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Exactly.
No other MMORPG has this much level of, and I keep on repeating it, but it bears repeating, this level of freedom.
There's a reason this game was beloved, and why it is still worth, you know, caring about now. Even if you aren't someone who, you know, spent as much time playing it back in the day.
Yeah, it still holds up. That's the most important
Yeah.
thing. It still holds up, even to people who have never experienced it. Like, yeah, visually, it's not the prettiest. Mitten Hands is the running gag, for a very good reason. But like, it still stands. It still stands tall.
Speaking of old stuff, I think I hear the
Did we walk past it? There it is. I got it.
Okay, you got it. Cool.
Yeah, I heard the glowy, but I immediately was like, we have to engage the enemies first. Sorry, I got into scrapper mindset there.
I think I have that mod install that makes it beep, because I don't think it beeps by default. What, did it like hum or
does.
something?
It hums.
Beeps now? Okay, so I have the beep mod installed. You guys should look that up on the forums. That's like a lifesaver, because the hum thing I could never freaking hear.
Oh, I love the hum. I would never want to get rid of the hum. I love the hum so deeply.
The hum is one of those iconic sound effects of this game, much like your power isn't ready or recharged sound is. So with that in mind, I mean, we were talking about like the game overall and how it compares in the abstract, but like, how many of you have actually played like the other City of Hero Rogue servers, like, and compare it to Homecoming? Like, what was your experience there?
Chris, I think you might be the only one who has, or maybe Ellie has. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. I have not. Because like I said, it's that feeling of I don't know. You know what it is? I think actually Bree kind of hit on it earlier when she mentioned that losing the game was traumatic. To a certain extent, I think I know I personally, and I think a lot of other people were kind of like, I cannot do this again.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. And that was kind of how I felt, and so I didn't really dive into the other Rogue servers because I was like, can't I can't lose this game again, and I don't want to invest if I think I might.
Yeah, I kind of, that was sort of my experience with playing Homecoming as well, for the most part. Like, I felt like I'd said all my goodbyes, but like going between Homecoming and what's the other one? I'm blanking out on it. Like
Rebirth. You played Rebirth.
Rebirth. It was Rebirth.
DNA.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. It was Rebirth. So like the one felt like it was trying to continue the legacy. Homecoming felt like it was kind of continuing the legacy, and Rebirth felt like it was just somebody's fun little private server. And like both experiences are perfectly valid and acceptable. It's a matter of what one prefers or likes or wants out of the game, but like in both cases there was just this sense that like it was always felt like it was a wake for something that people just can't say goodbye to. Like it was just this weird, not necessarily funerary sort of sensation, but like I don't know, it just felt in both cases it felt like people couldn't let go, and I had let go a little bit.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I was definitely, of the. I was in a similar place, which is why I hadn't devoted as much time until now. We know it's a thing. Why am I having so much trouble clicking on this door? Why am I having such a hard time with this?
Are you?
Are
you're literally not in the
trifling
building.
with
What?
doors, Elliot?
No, I'm not trifling with doors. I'm trying to trifle with doors. The lack of door trifling is the entire problem. Oh god, it's the cave. It's the cave.
But yeah, the sensation between this game and Rebirth, it felt a little bit night and day. Not just because of like the overall sense of it being a private server versus somebody trying to keep the old game alive, but also like there's this sort of that private server sensation kind of extended into Rebirth's population as well, right? It was significantly smaller, like way smaller, which is not a problem, I don't think necessarily, but like for those like me who appreciate being surrounded, like that sort of latent activity of a bunch of people in the game at once, like who sort of feeds off of that energy, not having that feeling in Rebirth sort of like encouraged my malaise with the idea that that City of Heroes is actually dead,
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Because, like, you feel like those end up being experimental. I completely agree with you, because this is why I don't play a lot of, like, rogue servers for games, except for the big one. It's why I don't really play on the tiny Star Wars Galaxies rogue servers. There's tons of them, but I play on the big one. I want to be where the people are. I want to be where the people are. You know what I mean? But I feel exactly the same way. So I'm glad. I'm glad Rebirth exists. I'm glad all those little servers exist. this because
Sure.
you know they're going to come up with interesting things and they're going to be borrowed over, especially now with the city council thing. I guarantee there's going to be a lot more of like open sharing of those kinds of ideas, and everybody's going to benefit from that. I can't wait to see stuff like that.
I really
But I
hope it
also want
does.
people
Yeah.
like more people need to see those things because Rebirth is doing really neat things. And honestly, if you're more into like speed racing through as opposed to like Homecoming is relatively slow, in my opinion, it should be faster in terms of leveling. But
Yes.
Rebirth is way faster than this, so that actually might appeal to some people. And I'd like to see more of those servers and like alternative rule sets brought over too.
Yeah, and don't
'Cause,
get
I
me
mean,
wrong, like I'm not suggesting that Rebirth is the lesser by any stretch of the imagination. It just does things differently. And my feelings
yeah,
about both Rebirth and Homecoming simply stemmed from my sensation that I've said my goodbyes and I thought I'd moved on. These always felt like they were extremely temporary, that they were all on borrowed time, and NCSoft was simply not moving purely because nobody was making money off of the IP. That was
Yeah, I
that
get.
was the only thing that kind of kept me that kept them on, and that's not exactly a motivator for wanting to play on them very much, frankly.
It was the sense that they were subsisting because getting rid of them wasn't yet a priority.
Exactly, right. But now with Homecoming getting this license, like it's I'm suddenly re-energized and wanting to find a main character or slash characters again. And like and actually I feel like that would sort of extend to the other rogue servers too. Like I would want to like not necessarily because like this one being licensed means everybody else gets to stay afloat, but like it does sort of like make it easier to parse the idea that this game isn't really necessarily dead.
It was, but now it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't happen much. Like usually, I mean, the majority of times when like something like that does happen, it's not a good fit. It's like, Hellgate London being brought back, or Hellgate London being brought back,
Bless.
or Hellgate London being brought back, or Bless being brought back, or Hellgate London being brought back. Yes, I know how many times I said that.
It mattered that many times. They said that, which actually sort of like segs into what this means for games preservation as a whole. I don't know that I can speak to this very much because I haven't been able to like follow this nearly as closely as I feel like 3, for example, has. But what does this do for? Do you think this opens doors, or is this just like a complete one-off event?
I don't think it's going to be an immediate overhaul. I don't think every rogue server in existence is suddenly going to get granted a license. Like
Sure,
some of
sure.
them are like super shady and dodgy. I think there's a lot of unique characteristics for the way this one came about and how they got the original code and some of the leverage they had that a lot of other servers are not going to have. On the other hand, when people see the popularity, when people see the response, the outpouring of love for NCSoft, because I guarantee that's coming. Like we're already feeling it. Like there are a lot of grudges against NCSoft, and a lot of them just got washed away in the last 2 days. A lot. Seriously, like this is a company that's probably going to be a studio of the year because of what they just did. I'm dead serious about that. So I feel like when other companies start to see that they can allow the players to do this, completely continuing to own it themselves, giving up none of their actual like ownership of the actual IP and all of that. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to take any risks. All they have to do is just make sure that nobody's, I don't know, doing something awful inside the games or on streams or whatever. All they have to do is like barely protect their own IP. I think that's going to start to become more popular. I think some of the servers that are out there that have been working very hard, like with actual development, not just like, trying to run it as like a secret cash shop. You know the ones I'm talking about.
Sure.
There's some bad rogue servers out there. But
Oh,
other
yeah.
ones like Warhammer, Return of Reckoning, we gave them our best rogue server of the year last year because they're a really great server. They actually have solid development, lots of players. They've been caring about it and like carrying the mantle of the game for years. Those are the kinds of servers that I think have some sort of chance now if the companies can actually be convinced that what NCSoft does, and NCSoft is not alone. There are lots of companies, and there are a few companies that have done this. The biggest one being Daybreak with Project 1999, which is the
Mhm.
EverQuest classic server that is like completely licensed and legal. Yeah, we only had like one really big one. That was it. And we had a bunch of small ones that no one's ever heard of except for weird nerds like us. But like when other companies start to see, oh, NCSoft has done this. Well, NCSoft just they have Throne and Liberty's about to launch. So they're like, this was a smart idea, by the way. I don't think that's a coincidence. So you know what I'm saying? There's some push in the industry for people to at least consider it and then, be a little picky and choosy about which ones they actually legitimize. I'm excited for it, and it also shows the players. I mean, this has always been a problem for us as a site trying to get people to care about game preservation because there's this underlying sense. We were chatting about this earlier. I saw people in the comments doing it too. They were talking about how there's this assumption that any game that gets closed down deserved it. They did something wrong. They didn't have enough people. They didn't make enough money. They made mistakes. Whatever. It's almost always not exactly that. It's usually similar to that, but not always. Some of these games get closed down for reasons that have nothing to do with how much they are loved or how successful they could be with the right team on them. And that's what I'm hoping people see, that we can still preserve those games. We have, like, the player bases have opportunities here to push and push and push until the studios say fine and give us our games back. You know what I'm saying? And we need to care about that. That's something we have to do, or these games will disappear. My kids would not be able to play this game if people hadn't brought this back in 2019. It's flat out the truth. A whole nother generation. Like, forget my kids. There's like a whole bunch of like Zoomers and millennials who would never have gotten to play this game, only remember playing it as children and wanted to play it again when they got older, and now they can't, or they couldn't, and now they can. That to me is just super awesome, and we need to keep pushing that. We need to like make this a positive force in the industry and not oh, they finally got their dumb old game back. I don't want it to become that. That's why I want to keep a positive light on
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I want it to be less about people getting their toy again, more about just like sort of mile marking development of the MMO genre. That's what I kind of hope that this sort of elicits. And a company as big as NCSoft doing its thing. Also, could you please enter the mission? That'd be really super cool. of you.
No, I was talking. It was very important talking.
Yeah, really interesting that you mentioned the idea that maybe not every game that gets shut down necessarily deserved it. Somebody should write an article about that.
Somebody should. I should pay him in the past for having written that.
Look at the response of Warhammer Online. They came up with an experience that's meant for the live server. Yeah, MJ, for the record, Gamer ME, MJ is unfortunately able to join us for this stream. As much as I would have loved to have had her, she has to kind of like handle some matters at home. But she'll be on later tonight. Don't worry, she'll be back.
But I definitely, I would agree. I didn't want to interrupt Bree during all the things she had to say, because I think, by and large, we agree that this is one of the, like, the fact of the matter is, as a rule, there are two outcomes for a server up until this point. Either A, the people who own the game shut it down, or B, they continue to operate with a sort of benign neglect. And that's not like anything that moves the window and says, okay, that doesn't have to be the only option. There are other outcomes that are actually positive and like in some cases like Star Wars Galaxies, that's probably never going to be the outcome, because they're not the only. There is a different licensee that would have to be contacted for that to become official, and that's not happening.
Yeah, no,
But,
definitely
like, for City of Heroes, the only people who had to be negotiated with were NCSoft, and NCSoft was able to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, this is a win for us and no extra expenditure for us, and it's a positive story that didn't cost them anything. And then there are other games that I can think of like that, like we have been talking about WildStar, and that's definitely on the table as something where it's like the only people if you can get that rogue server working, you can just say, okay, we don't have to develop it anymore, but the game is still up for the people who love it. That could be a viable outcome, and I think the idea that, you know, rogue servers do not automatically have to turn into either neglected or havens for bad actors is a nice thing.
Yeah, I hope it paves some. I hope it blazes some trails, even if eventually, like, it doesn't all have to happen overnight like Reason.
Congrats.
Yay, level 20. Now maybe I can actually hit these things.
What? This is City of Heroes, a game where you hit things when you attack them.
You like gesticulate in their general direction and hope numbers come up. And yeah, I'll be sure to give her your regards, Gamer Amy. No worries. Turbine was working on an open source server for Asheron's Call right before they sold off all of their assets. So, Radiant 59 is open source. But yeah, there was a lot of people who were calling for Asheron's Call too. Like, I remember a lot of people were responding WildStar, and then like Asheron's Call was another one. There's still plenty of. There's a lot of meat out there that could be taken, or not meat. This is a bad analogy. I'm sorry. Hang on. There's a lot of really great games that could be revived as meat. Delicious meat.
Runner.
Yeah,
Actually,
run it.
it's fine. Let him run.
Hey, there you go.
I punched him in the back, and now he's. Oh, that man is dead. That man is very.
Oh my.
I hope all of you. I hope all of you have seen Free Guy, because that's what I'm thinking of. He's just.
Yes,
rested.
exactly.
Coffin. That man is dead. He's very sleepy.
I do love. That's another thing I love about this game. It has admittedly aged like cheese, but the NVIDIA physics wonkiness inherent in some like the character models when they fall over limb. It's great. Like that guy was just doing a big old can when he was laying on the ground and dead. And actually, now that we were talking about the future of past games, that this really brings up a question of what happens with all the legacy MMOs that are being worked on. Like, you know, your City of Titans and Ships of Heroes. Like, what happens to those now? Like, the Big Daddy is effectively really, really back now. Like, what happens to those games?
I want to think about it, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, okay. If anyone from there is like, I have friends who I know are working on City of Titans.
Sure.
And you know, I hopefully, if they're watching it, you know, I have nothing but respect for them. And these are, but like, as much as I want for City of Titans to be a thing, I think, you know, we've all kind of been dealing with / accepting the fact that these projects lost momentum. And that's just kind of, they had lost momentum before now. This is like,
Yeah, this didn't help, but they were already on, so it did feel like they were sort of slowing. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Like, I don't see, just for example, I don't see City, Ship of Heroes. Oh, sorry, did we miss a runner? Did you guys have to kill a runner?
There's a whole group over there if we want it.
Yeah, did we want?
Oh, you know what? Once I got the whole group, yeah,
Yeah,
let's might as
let's
well.
burn
Why
it.
not? Absolutely.
We got more dudes to
I
kill.
crave the sweet embrace of death. Given, received, I don't really care. It's fine, whatever.
And actually, Toaster brings up a good point. Ship Heroes use a little too closely to COX. that is probably good for the demo. Like the enhancement system, the demo full lift off wholesale City of Heroes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like I wrote a column about that too. If you haven't read my columns, well, I'm sorry, but one of my recurring jokes that I would make is someone should write a column about that, either immediately after or a while after I'd already written a column about that. So, but I did write a column about how the rogue servers alone meant it's gonna be tricky for the general, City of Heroes, but it's not City of Heroes because we lost City of Heroes games who move forward, because even when it was just the rogue servers, there was a sense of, kind of, okay, but now we have it back. So, what are we doing? And I don't think, I think the license agreement only compounds that existing problem. I don't think that these games are necessarily bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think, they came from a very authentic and frankly traumatized place. But I do think that they kind of have subsequently lost some of their urgency. And when you're already dealing...
We're already 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
13 years old. There's no urgency here.
There was never an urgency before, to be sure. But...
Okay, theoretical urgency.
Yeah.
Look,
I
am
agree
30
with
or
you guys.
40 years old.
I
and
don't
need-
like, it sucks because especially with Titans, people put a lot of money into that. There's not just the volunteer dev time, but like almost what, $700,000. It was some absurd amount of money, all because people really wanted City of Heroes back at the top of 2013. So I mean, they kind of have to go through with it. They're kind of on the hook for that, you know what I mean? And at the same time, I'm not sure what the response is going to be if they do finish.
I would love to see more of these kinds of games because this still feels like an untapped market. But now I think if they really, really want to push forward, what they need to do now is not lean on the crutch of we are bringing City of Heroes back, but we are like adding something new to an underserved subgenre or style of MMO.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely 100% accurate. That you can't bring City of Heroes back anymore. You have to bring City of Heroes plus X.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't know how viable that is.
I'm not sure, but this has really changed the genre, in my opinion. This license agreement coming to fruition, it's a dynamism that like I haven't felt in the genre in a like I don't know that I felt this ever, frankly. Like I can't speak to vets who have been following this much closer than I have, but like this really feels like an astonishing like shockwave.
Oh yeah, this is the sort of thing that, like, I don't know. I feel something for the people who must have known, like, obviously you had to know this before it. Like, the people who were doing the negotiating knew where it was going and they knew how it was going to end up. And so I can only imagine what it was like for them to be
Yeah.
like, okay, this is going to be so huge and we can't announce it. We can't say it just yet because, it's the opening of January. It's the literal start of the new year and the game has changed already.
Yeah, and by the same coin, the people who were coming into our comments a couple years ago saying that it was all a lie, no one was doing any negotiating, and you guys can give it up. It's not happening. I hope you're enjoying that crow.
Eat it. You don't get any
Honestly, though,
sauce. You get no ketchup. Eat it.
But
This is
in all
so sad.
honesty, I hope
Alexa,
you're
play
enjoying the game.
hide
I
and
hope
seek.
I hope those people find the game again and,
Yes, yes.
hide their head for a minute, but then actually play, because it's one big community here.
Yeah, it should be. Superhero. We are superheroes. This is what we do.
And we're back.
We're
You
back.
know, you can't keep a hero dead.
That's true. I think that is a great point to end it on. Thank you so incredibly much to Elliot, to Bree, and to Paul for joining me in today's stream. I am excited that we got to do this. Thank you so very much for taking time to join me.
This
Happy
was
to
so
do it,
much
buddy.
fun. Yes, I'm glad we actually got to do it.
I am so glad. I had to actually go grocery shopping early today because we are expecting some snow on my usual shopping day. So I'm glad. Like, I know it was a bit of an open question if I would be able to, but I'm just parking myself at the monorail. I'm just doing that.
Right. Thank you very much to everybody for tuning in, for all of the new follows. We have a lot more streaming coming through the rest of this week, like usual. Later on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, MJ is going to be enjoying some Friday fun. She's going to do something. It's going to be awesome. You absolutely want to tune in for that later tonight. Saturday, January 6th, 2 p.m. Eastern, MJ is in whatever sandbox she fancies for Sandbox Saturday. And then on Sunday, January 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern, it is another Eorzea Sunday stream in Final Fantasy XIV, where myself and my husband Welsh Fox will obviously be talking about what was shown off at the Japan Fan Fest. But we hope you tune in for all of that. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. And as always, thank you to everyone for all of the support you provide to Massively Overpowered. Whether you're watching our streams live or on demand, reading what we have to write on the website, or if you're doing generous things like donating bits to the channel, subscribing to the channel, whitelisting the ads on our site, or if you're one of our amazing Patreon supporters. No matter what you do, top to bottom, you are the fuel that keeps Massively OP going. We'll see you later tonight. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your time in City of Heroes. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Later, everybody.
Bye.
Excelsior!